according to multiple sources, the Justice Department is reportedly launching a probe into E. Jean Carroll, years after you-know-who was found liable in a civil lawsuit for sexually abusing, then defaming her. He's been repeatedly denying any wrongdoing for years. Take a look.
But as far as I know, I never met her. I never touched her. I would have had no interest in meeting her in any way, shape, or form.
Aren't they pictures?
Now, attorneys for Carroll declined to comment. But given all the problems we're dealing with right now and the fact that 2 juries found him guilty, why is the administration spending time trying to relitigate this case that was already decided by 2 juries? What the hell?
I mean, it's just absolutely wild. Find me the sole voter who went out and voted in November because they wanted to see the Department of Justice at taxpayer expense investigate an 82-year-old woman. Like, it makes no sense. Nobody, absolutely no one voted for this. And it comes at a time when, like, we talk about at this table, people are actually struggling. People feel worse off than they did 10 years ago. There's this incredible stat that came out February 2026 that 10% of households in America have food insecurity, not enough food to feed their families. In the greatest nation on earth, that is shameful. The cost of healthcare costs, many families are setting aside paying utilities and other things to be able to keep up with medical bills. These are very real problems that, by the way, are bigger than just this administration or any one administration. But that is what should be focused on, not this, which absolutely no one voted for. And just real quickly, from a PR standpoint, no one was talking about this. Yeah. Literally, no one has uttered the words E. Jean Carroll in months, if not years.
Well, it's a weapon of mass distraction.
Well, no,
Yes.
I think it's actually the opposite. I think he just wants his vengeance, but he's putting something that's horrible for him back in the headlines. It's like when he brings up January 6th, I'm like, I wouldn't remind folks about that. Like, what are you
that
doing?
Doesn't work for you. When you ask that question about, like, you know, why is this happening with the Justice Department? It's because there was never really an America first. There's a Donald Trump first. Because everyone that put him to office was hoping they'd get relief in their life, that they'd get some help. And we have now heard about a ballroom, a golden arch. Maybe it's not golden, I don't know, but it sounds like it probably will be. The reflecting pool, slapping his name on the Kennedy Center when I thought we didn't want to spend time renaming things. We're renaming things. It literally has no use or pragmatic reason for any voter ever. It's all about Donald Trump, period.
I think what's disturbing to me is the Justice Department that I work for just doesn't exist anymore. It's now like a 3rd-rate, 4th-rate type of law firm for Donald Trump. Because back in the day, now I sound like when the dinosaurs roamed, but back in the day when I worked at the Justice Department, prosecutors would just never take cases like this. They were the best of the best of the best, the cream of the crop, and the cream of the crop just doesn't exist there anymore. So many career prosecutors have left precisely because they wouldn't take cases like this. And let's remember what these cases were about. In, I believe, the first case, he was found liable for sexually abusing her and awarded $5 million. He then proceeded to continually harass her and bully her and call her a liar, say it was a hoax, also say that he would never have sexually abused her because he wasn't attracted to her, because he wouldn't like, she wasn't his type. Anybody knows that sexual abuse is not about sex, it's about power. And so that in of itself is something. So then a second jury finds him guilty of defaming her by saying all these things. In one day, he posted 40 times about her in one day. So the jury gave E. Jean Carroll $65 million in punitive damages because he was bullying her, and then gave her additional money for the pain and suffering she went through at his hands. And this was all before he was president of the United States. Yet he calls this a political witch hunt. That doesn't make any sense. And now has the Justice Department, he's talking about weaponizing the government and paying people $1.7 billion in a slush fund because the government was weaponized against them. And now he's weaponizing the government.
I don't really know how he has any fans anymore. Watch something he just did yesterday. I have to show you a clip. Watch this.
Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it. They thought they were going to outweight me. You know, we'll outweight him. He's got the midterms. I don't care about the midterms. Look what happened last night. That was the prelude to the midterms. People understand it. They know that, very simple, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Well, I mean, it's like he doesn't care about the midterms. He doesn't care about people's financial situations. He said that last week. These are the kinds of statements that are self-destructive in many ways. So I'm continuously worried about the fact that he doesn't remember or he doesn't know what he's saying sometimes.
Well,
you don't go
no,
out there.
it's-
The Republican Party that is up for re-election in November are worried exactly about the midterms.
When does he care
And
about the
says-
Republican Party, though?
Yeah,
but I-
doesn't.
I also would
Can I
argue
just
that.
correct something that I said? I said found guilty. These were civil cases, so
Yeah.
that means he was
Wow.
found liable.
Liable.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh, is that the difference?
But listen,
Yes.
presidents shouldn't make national security decisions because of politics or the midterms.
Yeah.
They shouldn't. I do absolutely think the midterms are factoring into Iran. I think he sees that gas prices are $4 and $5
Yeah.
a gallon right now, and he is desperately looking for an off-ramp. I kind of agree with Senator Murphy, who we had on earlier in the week, which is a deal to end this and to end the pain and the suffering that Americans are feeling is a good thing if it wraps it
But
up.
Alyssa, if he really cared, cared about the midterms, he wouldn't have gone with Paxton. To me, he worries more about his own loyalty.
That's right.
Oh,
Because
endorse-
endorsing Paxton, because that is the one thing the Republican Party, who does care about the midterms, said this could screw us in the midterms, and yet he did it because that guy
Well, you know,
was loyal
he
to him.
You
cares-
know what's?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say. You know what's really bothering me? That he's doing all of this. People are dying all over the world, right?
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
This Ebola thing is something
And with the
that was
withdrawal of
prevent-
USAID, also, those
Well,
people.
that's what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
When I look at all of the stuff that's happening around the world, I think to myself, what are you doing? This bounces back and bites you in the butt. When people are ill and they're traveling and there's a possibility of bringing it means people can bring it here too. It doesn't, don't you understand? We do all the things we do in the world as preventative. And the laissez-faire
The
kind of
disregard.
attitude, the disregard
Yeah.
for just about everything and everybody.
And thinking about Ebola, there are a few Americans that they believe have been exposed to Ebola.
Yeah.
Rather than bring them back to the United States and quarantine them, they are keeping them in Kenya to take care of them.
You
They're
know
not
what? They'll
allowing
have a much
American
better deal
citizens to
in
come back
Kenya.
here.
They'll get better sooner in Kenya than they will if you put them on a plane and bring them here.
There
I
are
don't
medical
trust it.
arguments
Yeah.
for quarantining them
Yeah.
in the
But-
country. they're in.
But just think about the fact that before, when this type of thing happened, Americans were brought back and they were taken care of here. Now that's not
Yeah, I
happening.
think
So he doesn't. I don't think that he cares about Americans.
Well, I think it's the,
doesn't care about anybody but
Ebola.
himself.
I think it's the Ebola portion because this particular thing, this Ebola there's no cure.
That's true.
There's no cure. So I think that I'm happy they're there getting the help they need. But the idea that we stop helping people avoid this just blows me away. The fact that he's going after E. Jean doesn't.
He's cruel. He
doesn't
has a
surprise.
cru-
Yes,
He has this cruel, sadistic streak.
It does feel like that.
But I'm not sure that he's realizing what he's saying.
Well, we'll find out.
We'll find out.